messy. And yes, Iran has just launched drone strikes, a continuation. So everybody is positioning themselves. We knew this was coming. It would be considered minimal. What they're doing right now is minimal. Extremely minimal. But I do have to tell you, if that bayonet is activated by Israel, many lives will be lost. They will attempt to respond in proportion to the attack. If things continue to escalate, they're going to go full steam ahead. But of course, you guys know, Iran has launched its partial assault. Here's what you may not know. This is going to cause a problem. So I want you guys to be aware of this, just so that you have a good idea of the battle. Iran launched drone assaults against Israel all over the place, right? People will cover that, of course, as it comes in. Here's the part you may not know. This is going to cause a bit of a stink. It's one of the reasons why I do not gravitate towards negotiations, promises in the Middle East. Iran launched those drones. No doubt the media is covering that they're intercepted by, many of them were intercepted by Saudi Arabia, correct? Now, we have a long-standing pact with Saudi Arabia. We do. What that means is we have remote stations in Saudi Arabia. So in essence, those interceptions were ours. Just imagine this. Imagine we have remote intercept units in different places of the Middle East. They're operated from Texas, right? And we employ those units, right? Which will intercept drones based on their capacity from Saudi Arabia, from the Saudi kingdom. Now, if the Saudis take credit for that, that's going to be a big problem, because they already have deals with Iran. And ultimately, we're going to be blamed. That cat's going to be out of the bag. If it ever comes to the point where, these units have to be disclosed, we're going to be severely dethroned in the Middle East. That's going to be very bad, right? If somebody gets nervous in Saudi Arabia, they could give up the locations. They will become primary targets. They will be hit, and it will severely diminish our air power and coverage and defense power in the Middle East. At some point, we know something like that happens, according to prophecy. Because in prophecy, the alliance in the Middle East went in to Jerusalem and took it. So we know that. We know somehow our defense system failed in the Middle East. We know that somehow our readiness was overwhelmed by Middle Eastern factions. We know that at some point everything we did was for naught. We know that by reading Daniel chapter 11. What could be so bad that would happen in the Middle East? What would happen in the Middle East so bad that would cause the Islamic world to come together against Israel almost immediately? Space programs, nuclear missile armaments, air defense systems, right? So these guys are excellent at in the cyber world. So what's happening is the king of the south and the king of the north in the book of Daniel. Now, a lot of people have not seen this. I don't know why. But if you read the book of Daniel, the king of the south is known as the prince of the holy covenant. There is only one holy covenant in the whole world, and that is Israel, God's covenant with his people, the Jews. The king of the north is a Persian king, is a combination of many nations who have assisted Iran in their attack plots. This is not solely Iranian equipment. You're looking at multinational equipment in Iran, a coordinated effort against Israel. So military power is given to this individual. And it says, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. So what do we have here? Do you not know that what Iran is using for communications is a Russian-built system? Don't you know that? Do you not know that some of the greatest scientists in the world have been helping Iran since the 80s? Do you know that other forces in the Middle East are having to draw back right now as we speak? Because they do not tell you the truth on the news. They cover what other people want them to cover. Why would they ever tell anybody the true battle plan? You have the battle plan. It's in Daniel 11. It's very delicate equipment in Saudi Arabia that belongs to the USA. And indeed NATO. If Saudi Arabia is pressured, they're going to give up the locations. And just in case you don't know, you do realize that Benjamin Netanyahu has a strong desire to destroy the nuclear facilities. Of all the attacks and cyber assaults, nothing has touched their hardened facilities. Nothing. There have been operations after operations, an attempt, right, to infiltrate, to get below there. Nobody ever comes up. Here's the truth. You ready? Iran has forced a special group of people who are born to fight. And if you're familiar with the Mossad or Delta Operator Special Forces, those who have tangled with these individuals never want to see them again. They cause fear. These people are born to die. They are, by all means, superhuman, different, bred for death, not for life, for death. This is my estimation. This is my estimation based on some of the interactions that took place with Iraq and Iran back in the 80s and 90s. They probably have, I'd say, close to 800,000, 700 to 800,000 of those soldiers. The average weight of those soldiers is about 350 pounds. They're extremely agile. They are of a certain height. If these electronic centers are knocked out in the Middle East, it could easily turn into a ground war. There would be no repeat of the Iraq war. If you're thinking about Iraq, that was, you can't even call that a war. That was a strategic bombardment of a country who had no defense against those NATO nations that were coming up against them. Iran is not that way. These guys are experts at hiding things from the world, calling people's bluff. They play innocent right up to the last moment. If you guys start seeing Saudi Arabia come under pressure from those in the Middle East, you might want to buckle up for real, because that means we're going to lose our electronic advantage. The wild card is what will Benjamin Netanyahu do concerning Iran in taking out those hardened nuclear facilities. That is the big question mark. And yes, even though some of their drones were intercepted by certain remote bases in Saudi Arabia, controlled in Texas, that opens up a door to long-held battle plans. An offensive that will be devastating, quick and devastating if things go right. Listen, though, Saudi Arabia is stuck in the middle. We, too, are in the crosshairs. Hypersonics would be used, too. That's why yesterday and the day before that, they were talking about keeping the response or the assault down to a minimal. They were trying to assure the people, the folks that understand what the arrangement in the Middle East is. They were trying to keep people calm, because they do understand that hypersonics are used, which means if a person launches a missile from the Middle East towards the USA, there's no prep time. No prep time. There is no intercepting a hypersonic. You know, they lied in the Ukraine with Russia and the Ukraine, just so you know. When somebody uttered they intercepted a hypersonic, that was a lie. That was not a hypersonic missile. That was a big one, a big bogus lie. And they do that to bolster support so they can send money. But now everything is failing. People are fatigued. What will ultimately happen, according to the book of Daniel, is a coalition of Islamic forces, Middle Eastern forces, will overwhelm all defenses in the Middle East, and they will take Jerusalem. And for an abomination to occupy the temple means that somebody would occupy your heart. And if a man stands in your heart and soul, which is why I cannot stand man worship, because people are doing it right now. We also know that there are people in Israel right now who will strike agreements with the Islamic world and compromise at all levels of faith. They'll do so to save their own skins. Will a temple be rebuilt? Yes. And it's described in the Bible. But you guys will not like it if I read it. Nobody would. Because it would throw preconceived notions right out the window. During the time, if Middle Eastern factions took Jerusalem right now, do you know what they would do? You know what they want to do? Huh? Anybody? This is what they want to do. They want to actually get a temple constructed. Listen to me. They want a temple constructed, and they want to defile it. Why? Because it's outlined in their own faith. You do realize this is the first time that Iran has directly attacked anybody. Do you know how significant that is? Now, here's the bad part. I have to tell you about this. Right? People are going to jump the gun. But I want you guys to do this. This weekend. Right? I want you to start thinking about something. Many people are going to go out and get fuel. You guys remember that dream I told you about? I was walking down the street and the grass was up to my head, but places still had power, but they had no fuel. Cars were sitting everywhere. Nobody had fuel. Electricity still ran, but nobody had fuel. You guys remember that? That was in 2010. The trains, same thing. People were pushing strollers with items in the strollers. No one was driving. No one was driving. Trains were running. Something will happen to the fuel. A lot of people are going to go out and try and get some fuel to save the comfort of their lives or whatever they have to do. Start thinking soberly and have an understanding of something, right? In a best-case scenario, if a person filled up every tank that they have, the fuel is still going to run out. Something happens to the fuel catastrophically, right? The fuel is going to run out. All they're going to do is delay their own suffering. But those who get used to things or consider things without fuel, they're going to do themselves a great service and other people too, right? I know we don't like to go without things. I know we don't. But have you noticed what's been happening for the last 4 presidents in the United States? The Lord has been preparing us for surprises. Just like that. He showed us how delicate things are, despite what anybody says. He's been showing us how things can collapse overnight. A lot of people always ask me, well, Mike, what about the money? If the money goes down, if people are going to have money because the Bible says so. You're just not going to have product to buy. You'll still have your money. Everybody's going to be on one central system. You know, they're working at breakneck speed to get that central system online. Well, no, I made a mistake. It is online. They have upped the plans. It wasn't supposed to be ready until 2026. It is ready in 2024. Now, you don't have to accept the mark of the beast the first time. But we know that after the calamitous time, after everything takes its toll, they're going to have to take their vow to be a part of the new world. A new world that will be without morals, where people can essentially do what they want. And in that, they'll say, see, crime has went down now that everybody can do what they want to do. Crime has gone down and everything else. Don't fall for that. It's going to be a sweet deal for many people. See, because saints are struggling right now. They are. So what happens if somebody offers you $10,000 a month over your current salary. And why are they lying about the oil, the status of the oil? For example, Iran doesn't need anybody's money. They've been feeding money all throughout the world. Do you guys know that? Iran has been doing this. You know that money the USA had that we were supposed to give to Iran? They didn't even receive it yet. For example, Iran doesn't need anybody's money. They've been feeding money all throughout the world. Do you guys know that? Iran has been doing this. A lot of the oil on this planet. But just so you know, it's not going to work out well for them either. Those that eat of a portion of his meat shall destroy him. That's also a biblical principle, which means those that drink the Kool-Aid of who they follow. Listen to me. If you drink the Kool-Aid of a person, whoever it is that you follow, right? At some point, you're not going to like that Kool-Aid. Okay, not so much in everybody, because if you take note, everybody else's truth has failed. And the Bible continues steadfastly in the realm of truth, doesn't it? But everybody else's ideas are failing left and right. God bless each of you, right? Hopefully you guys have a little bit of an understanding of what's happening there. I'm sure that people are going to bombard you with lots of info. Take in the information well, but have your anchor in prophecy. Have your anchor in the Word of God always, okay?